much, and very good morning to you, all of you. This is a lovely way of spending a Sunday morning, I assure you. We are going to have a great day today. I am very grateful to ICG and especially our President Shri Pratap Singh Rane for agreeing to host this one-day seminar on implementing Goa 2035 vision and roadmap, the challenge ahead. So not only you are the builder of modern Goa, your astute leadership, your vision is something that I admired from a distance for a long, long time. So your presence here means something very special to us. Our beloved Chief Minister is also going to be here. Today there are parallel functions, as you know, because of the Bandodkar anniversary. There is a state function that he has to attend. But he has assured us that somehow or the other he'll make sure that among his numerous engagements during the day, he'll be very much here. What I'm going to do is not to reproduce what we have said in the report, because I assume that all of you before coming here have read the report. And in fact, because you have read the report, you are here, basically, because you thought probably that it is worthwhile looking at what happens to the report further, how do we implement it, what difference will it make to Goa. What I'm going to do is to give you a bit of a background, a bit of information on the process that we followed, bit of our expectation, and bit of my own experience on creating these vision documents and what happens to them later if things are done basically right. Let me begin on a note I would say was one of the best emails that I have received in my life by recalling that. And what was that? That was sent by my friend Dr. Vijay Kelkar. Dr. Vijay Kelkar, as you know, is not only an eminent economist. He has been the Finance Secretary of Government of India. He has been the Chairman of Finance Commission, a very exalted position of cabinet rank where you get to interact with all the states individually on one-on-one basis, and you know the states more than anyone else does. He was former executive director of IMF also, such a eminent person. He has come and settled in Pune, and we work together very closely on a number of things, and he happened to be also, and we were privileged to have him as a member of the committee. Nandini mentioned about this motion on the Goa Golden Jubilee Development Council report that was passed in the Assembly, and interestingly, it had full support from the ruling party, opposition party, everyone. In fact, the motion was moved by the Congress party, I understand. Very rare this particular news item. He wrote to me, I'm quoting him, and he said, there have been very few moments like this in our country where the entire political elite has endorsed a long-term vision and pledged full support. He thought that was a historic event, and he added the word bravo. I was so happy, very frankly, because right from day one, after the then Chief Minister, Digambar Kamath, had approached me to chair this committee, right from the first meeting, there was one byline that we were always talking about, and that one byline was Goa first. One Goa. Team Goa. Goa matters to me. How can I matter to Goa more? That was all. And so we repeated that practically in every meeting. Okay? And I believe that this was a vindication. I believe that this particular motion, the way it was carried, was a vindication of that sense. I would like to begin with this note itself. I must say that this report, whoever has read it, they admired it, not so much for the content part of it, but the fact that one thought of creating such a vision document for a state. It was rather unique because rarely this has happened. I was sent personal letters. In fact, this was again by the suggestion of Dr. Vijay Kelkar. When he had come to see me last week, he said, please send it to the President, the Vice President, and the Prime Minister, which I have done. And with a special request to the Prime Minister that for the that report should be circulated in the National Development Council, because all the chief ministers are members of that, and therefore it is quite possible that an action that we have taken here might trigger similar thinking in the rest of the country. And I think that will be terrific. The other point, and I'm very happy to see Satish Shetty here, who is presently the director of National Institute of Oceanography, and very soon will take over at the Vice Chancellor of Goa University. I remember creating this CSR vision 2001 when I had taken over as a director of NCL. What is CSR? CSR is a chain of 40 laboratories. Just like National Institute of Oceanography, you have here National Chemical Laboratory in Pune, National Aerospace Laboratory in Bangalore, and National Physical Laboratory in Delhi. 20,000 scientists, all spread over the country, basically. And so may I say something, in 1995 when I took over, the 40 laboratories had behaved like 40 different laboratories, so as to say. There was no team CSR. And we created this CSR Vision 2001. It was remarkable. The impact that it had was remarkable. It was almost like you have a plain piece of paper on which you have magnetic needles. They are all disoriented, each one in its own direction. And then you suddenly bring this magnet called CSR Vision 2001, and all of them, they align. It's remarkable, basically. So I do believe that vision documents are important. I think the very first point I want to make, based on my own experience, little experience, I've never done anything for a state, this was the first one, that it matters. Because if each one of them owns that vision, that's very important, then people say, what is it that I can do to make that vision happen, so as to say. And so I'm very much hoping that that will happen with this vision document once it is discussed, debated, and accepted. That's the second point I want to make. The third point I want to make is something that our Honorable Professor Singhania has already made. In terms of the membership of the committee that we had very, very eminent people. I'm very happy to see Lija Narona here, Satish Shetty here, Bhaskar Naik, who acted as the convener. We had people like Vijay Kelkar, Dr. Vijay Bhatkar, we had Anil Kakodkar, Charles Correa, a whole range of people, Madhav Gargil, etc. In fact, it was a 17-member committee. 9 of them, by the way, were born in Goa. 8 were non-Goans, but for them Goa was at their heart. So they were all Goans, so as to say, as far as I'm concerned. So it was a terrific committee, and the kind of process that we followed was that we didn't want it to be something which was top-down, in terms of these wise men and women sit together and say, this is what Goa should be and this is how it has to be done. We did extraordinarily wild consultation. I had many pleasurable moments during those consultations. I remember being in Madgaon along with Anil Kakodkar, 2 of us, and close to 300 young people had gathered there. It's incredible. They were late school-going kids, early college-going kids, and amazing. And we said, let's talk about go off your dream, go off your, in your vision, what it should be and how do we sort of make it and so on. And what was most impressive, as far as I'm concerned, was that in that 4-hour discourse, I did not hear one word of cynicism. As we grow older, I believe we tend to be cynical. We start believing it cannot be done. Young kids are not like that. Young kids are innovators. Innovator is one who does not know it cannot be done. All of us know it cannot be done. not them. And that was so wonderful, because who is going to finally build CSR Vision 2035? It is these kids, basically. They are in their 20s. In 25 years' time, they will be at their productive best in their mid-40s, early 50s, and they are the ones who are actually going to make it happen. And therefore, to see their positivism, I would say, was a great charger as far as who is concerned. And of course, we had many other meetings, many other discussions with many people. The other point I want to make is that while scripting this particular report, of course we had subcommittees, because we start looking at the blocks, isn't it? What will you do in education? What will you do in health? What would you do in, let us say, industry, trade, this, that, and that? These are building blocks, isn't it, by which state is built. So we had a choice. We could have actually said, this is a chapter on education. This is what we should be doing. We have a chapter on trade. This is what we should be doing, etc. I'm sorry, we didn't take that approach. We didn't take that approach because then at the end of the day, I said, what does it matter? I mean, you may be educated, so what? What is the bigger purpose of life? What do you want to achieve finally? All right? Isn't that outcome very important in comparison to these building blocks, so as to say? You may be super rich, so what? You may be the most unhappy man despite being super rich, and many super rich people are unhappy, by the way. So we said, what is the big thing that matters finally? What are those big messages that we want to get? And I must say that I deep dived, because every committee is something that I'll take as a learning experience. I've chaired, I do not know whether you are aware, 12 Mashalkar committees, by the way, varying from higher education, you know, the way regional engineering colleges got converted to NITs, and we have one NIT here. I had chaired that committee. That was one of the Mashalkar committees. Then National Auto Fuel Policy, drug regulatory policies, a whole range of things. And in each of these, what I found myself as a student, learning. So I actually went and started reading everything about Goa, so as to say. You know, anything that I could lay my hands on, you know. And that is where I actually came across the story of Parshuram, by the way. That how he was driven away in anger, then he wanted to create a land for himself, and how he threw those 7 arrows, and that land was created, and so on and so forth. And I said, I don't believe in mythology. Of course I don't. But I said, there is a spirit. You know, like we have some traditions, like we lit the lamp right now, basically. So there was something, I mean, we believe in the values of Ramayana and Mahabharata and so on. So there is something very subtle about this, by the way, without believing in mythology. But I said there is a symbolism there. What we are trying to do, I mean, he threw those 7 arrows, supposedly, and pushed the sea back to create Parshuram Kshetra, which is supposed to be Goa. I said, how do you create, what are those 7 things, you know, which will make that Goa of our dream, 2035, basically happen? And then combining these 2 themes, we said, therefore, and that is where we went to the fundamentals in terms of what are the fundamentals that we must retain. And that is where the Suramya Goa, Susanskrit Goa, Sushasit Goa, Swanandi Goa, etc., all the 7 points, I don't want to repeat, actually came. And then we found that everything that we are doing in terms of subgroups, the IT or health and that, etc., they fitted in, so as to say, in which one of these. For example, Santulit Goa. Santulit Goa meant several things. Balancing ecology, environment, economics, equity and ethics all together. That is balance, all right? A balanced way of life, for example. Health fitted in very nicely there. So you will find there is no artificial distinction between this is a chapter on health, this is a chapter on agriculture, this is a chapter on this, etc. It all goes by those endpoints. I must also say that creation of this cover is a cooperative effort. The idea of 7 arrows, etc. And it was Satish Shetty, actually, who pointed out to me the fact, this illustration of Parshuram, done by Mel D'Souza, a Catholic Christian, living in Canada, basically, a Goan, all right, doing this. And there was great symbolism here, so as to say, all right. So we said we'll use this. And then actually this particular message that has been written here, we are going to put it inside. And it was our Chief Minister who said, no, this message is so fundamental because this cultural diversity and yet we being kind of a harmonious society is a message which should come right on the front page. So I must say, if I were to give credit for this is how it should be sort of distributed, that particular sort of thought. The reason I elaborated on this is that these processes of creation, nowadays, people talk about co-creation. So this has been a process of co-creation, if you like. Now let's come to what we are suggesting in this report, and what is the expectation moving forward. I think that are very clear. The first thing was when we were doing the report and when we were having these interactions, there was skepticism, there was cynicism among some of the people who participated. They said, we have seen many reports. They all get filed, they gather dust, etc. When the governments change, the first government says it was previous government's agenda and we won't get credit for it and therefore we'll not do anything with it and so on and so forth. So if and when the government changes, what will happen to this report? I think you have seen that. That's not the case. It was Digambar Rao Kamath. At that time, it was started as his sort of idea. And our current Chief Minister just said, that's it. We'll take it and we'll run with it and make it happen, basically. So I think that question has been answered. The second question was in terms of, it is not the power of idea, it is the power of execution that matters. And in India, this is our biggest weakness. India is a land of ideas, by the way, no issue. Lots of ideas, everybody has 1,000 ideas. It's the question of how do you implement. And that is where, again, I must say hats off to the present Chief Minister when we actually talked. The first thing he started by asking how I can actually execute this. What are the timelines? Bhaskar Rao, you will remember the very first meeting that we had. He immediately started deep diving into, let us say, the issues. So I believe those two things have been answered. We'll have to, of course, see as we move forward because there is a thought and there is an action. They say vichar and kruti. विचार ठीक आहेत पण कृती होते की नाही हे पाहणं फार महत्त्वाचं असतं. ते होईल अशी माझी खात्री आहे. I have no doubt about that. Now, the gist of what we are saying is very simple. In Suramya Goa, I always said Goa is God's gift to India. There is no question. I have never seen a more beautiful land in my entire life. Maybe I'm biased, but this is true. So its beauty has to be maintained, its serenity has to be maintained at any cost. That is the word that we have used. We are saying that people visit Goa not just to see it, but to experience it. And experiencing Goa as we do today has to be the same experience in the year 2035. How do we maintain that? All right, so that is what one of the themes that is based on. The second is Susanskrit Goa, our culture. Again, it's something that is again God's gift. It's so rich, it is diverse. And this mosaic of cultures blended with religious and cultural harmony is something that really should make us proud. There's a great diversity in unity. There is a great unity in sort of diversity. We have been always ahead. Like I believe we are one of the few states to have a state cultural policy, which is sort of wonderful. And actually, we have made suggestions on how Goa could emerge as a state that gives its people an opportunity to experience the art and culture all the time, and how do we support the cultural activities in a decentralized and distributed way. We also suggested many things like reviewing Goa's tourism policy, because our image should be not just fun and sun and sand. It has to go beyond as a progressive and socially responsive society with growing economy and a rich cultural heritage. How do we build that as a brand for Goa rather than just fun, sun and sand? We have suggested ideas like Goa Biennial, which can put us on the international sort of stage. The third one, which is, of course, the Santulit Goa, the balanced Goa. How do we balance out the economy, ecology, and environment? We have talked about a number of things there, including the basic balance if you have to have between economy, ecology, and environment. Our current economy is very hugely dependent upon mining and tourism. They have been our main economic pillars. So how do we actually grow, because growth is life at the end of the day, by creating that balance. I'm not going to repeat what we have said here. We have actually made some very strong recommendations, like implementing some of the hard things like closure of mines that have been extracting beyond limits that have been said while the clearances were given, then closure of mines, if any, operating within the sanctuaries and protected areas, cancellation of mining leases in wildlife sanctuaries, etc., national parks, then terminating mining leases in the buffer of dams. And for doing all that, we have made some concrete suggestions, and we have said that there should be a high-powered committee comprising economists, ecologists, agriculturists, social scientists, economists, etc., who should take a final call in terms of the actual numbers and the roadmap. And I'm very happy. When I landed yesterday, I was touring all around the country, so I missed that. I was happy to see that this new mining policy that has been already sort of announced. And I'm sure during the day we will have a discussion when the corresponding presentation is made with regard to what our report says and what the mining policy says, and their alignment and moving forward, how do we go? I'm sure there will be a discussion. The fourth point, very important, is Vidya Goa. You know, they say 21st century is going to be the century of knowledge. In fact, many people even go beyond and say 21st century is going to be a century of mind, so as to say. And that is where I believe Goa has a great chance. That is where, for example, education becomes important. And education, doing what? Education, building minds, but equally importantly, building mindsets. Many times we concentrate so much on building minds that we forget that there is something like mindset. In fact, our minds are moving into the 21st century, and if our mindsets are in 15th or 16th century, we remain in 15th and 16th century. In fact, India's main battle has been India's mind versus India's mindset. So how do we give that education? I was speaking somewhere, I was speaking in the ISER Mohali convocation, and I said something which I don't mind repeating it here. I said, you know, when you look at the famous equations, the great thing about those equations is that they're very simple in form. The most powerful are the most simple, by the way. One of them is Newton's law of motion. What is it? F equal to ma. F is force, m is mass, a is acceleration. One of the most powerful, very important one. What is the other one? E equal to mc square. Einstein's equation, right? E is energy, m is mass, c is the velocity of light. But I would say an equation which is even more powerful is education equal to future. Education is future. No education, no future. For the individual as well as for the society, for the nation, for the state. Right? And I have experienced that myself, as a matter of fact. You know, I'm standing here, it's simply because of education. You know my background and how I was about to leave the school when I did my SSC despite standing 11th among 1,35,000 students because my poor mother couldn't afford my education. And it was Sir Dorab Tata Trust which gave me 60 rupees per month and allowed me to study for 6 years, basically. You know, and that is how I could sort of move forward in my life. In fact, it's interesting, education becomes a great equalizer, by the way. 1st October last year was a very interesting day in my life. You know, the American Academy of Arts and Science, which was established in 1780 by Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, they elect fellows for their outstanding accomplishments, basically. It's very difficult to become a fellow of that academy. And there are more than 200 Nobel laureates who have become fellows of that academy, and you know, right from Charles Darwin to Winston Churchill, from Nelson Mandela to Einstein. I mean, you can name them. So you might ask, from 1780, how many Indians have become fellows? You know, only 7. And amazingly, when you become a fellow, you sign in the same book where all these great people have signed, by the way. So there is a function. So the 6th and 7th Indians signed in the book on that day. You know who was the 6th Indian? Ratan Tata. And you know who was the 7th Indian? Myself, Raghunath Mashelkar. Now that's not what I want to tell you. What I want to tell you follows now. We signed on the same page one after the other. Now Ratan had got it in 2010. I had got it in 2011, but he couldn't make it in 2010. That's why he came in 2011. And what a coincidence. And we signed one after the other. Now in 1960, when I was going to Bombay House to collect 60 rupees, the House of Tatas, if somebody had told me 50 years down the line, you and the head of Tatas will sign in the same book on the same page, I would not have believed it. You know, you state an equation and give the proof of the equation. So I stated the equation, education equal to future, he is the proof of the equation. That's how Vijaya, that great equalizer is. And therefore for Goa, our dream should be that each child, basically, given an opportunity, education followed by opportunity, can make it. And nothing should be said. And that is where now, Satish, your challenge is going to come. Your challenge is you are a part of the committee to write this particular report, give a dream for Goa University as being a world-class university. Now you will be the Vice Chancellor and you will have to implement it. Okay? And we will be all with you to do that. That is a dream. So that chapter, by the way, is full of a dream. Our dream actually can be fulfilled for a simple reason. If you look at all states in Goa, Goa is best placed. Thanks to the primary education, thanks to our first Chief Minister, right from that time it started, sir, you remember that? Tremendous base as against the rest of the India. Literacy, 90% plus. It's incredible, English-speaking population and the rest of it, if you see, we're up there already, so as to say. How do we move into the sort of next orbit is the question. There are 2 or 3 things we have to remember. First of all, and again, Satish, this is an important lesson for the next Vice Chancellor. In education, again, what is very important is excellence as well as relevance. Excellence, yes, you must make it to the top in terms of the honors that you will receive, the great heights that you will scale. You know, finally, as you must have seen, in Olympics, you stand first, you get a gold medal. Stand second, you get a silver. You stand third, a bronze. Fourth, nobody remembers. How do we make it a habit to move from no medal to bronze to silver to gold? That is excellence. All right? And there is only one benchmark, global. You cannot say I'm best in Panji, I'm best in Madgaon, I'm best in Goa, sorry. There is only one benchmark by which we have to judge ourselves, so as to say. But at the same time, relevance. What difference is the science that you are going to do makes to the lives of ordinary Goans? All right? Because there are innumerable problems that are typically Goan, that are typically Indian. What difference you are going to make? That is one of the things that we have highlighted in this. How do we make it relevant, and for that, what are the steps we need to basically take? What are the initiatives we need to take? The other thing that we have said there is also the following. Two things matter: ambience and ambition. Ambience without ambition is no good. Ambition without ambience is also of no consequence. So you create that ambience. All right? Universities. I mean, we have been to Harvard, we have been to Cambridge, we have been to these universities, basically. You know, there is a smell. I mean, I spend time at Harvard every year as a visiting professor. October, I will be there again every year. This is a smell. This is a smell. How do we create that smell? Okay? But at the same time, how do we have that ambition? And I think Goa must have that ambition, basically. Forget about the past, you know, Central University, we say no, this, that, just forget about it. Look at things in a completely different perspective. So there's a dream that we are given about an international university. Because I talk to a lot of people from outside, if that at all there is an international university that can be built, actually it can be only in Goa, like high quality of life, the, you know, global thinking community, the entire sort of atmosphere that we have, as a matter of fact. And we have actually, in fact, I'll tell you, while I was involved in this entire process, I had numerous discussions with people. People are wanting to come and invest, by the way, if there are right sort of policies. I think the point we are trying to make is that I will not take this point forward. There are many concrete, so there is a resource that you require, you get stuck. There are many things here where you don't require resource. You only require resourcefulness, just political will, and it can happen, as a matter of fact. So I hope that will be. The fifth point is, of course, Samruddha Goa. India was being considered as a third world country in the year 2000, around that time, and today it is being looked at as potentially the third most powerful country. And I'm using the word potentially because that potential is in our hands. We can mess it up. Potentially. Now, while this is happening, it is expected that within a generation, that is a prediction, we can be 1/6 of the world's economy with 1/6 of world's population. You know? Now, when that happens, don't forget Goa has been always ahead of India in terms of multiples of GDP. In fact, by a factor of 2, factor of 3, we have been higher, so as to say. And we have to maintain that. So if India, within a generation, will become $25,000 nominally, calculated from now, then we have to be, let's say, 4 times more, we have to be 100,000, which means we have to be ahead of maybe even United States of America. That's how it looks. It looks impossible, by the way, when you start looking at it like this. Now, if we have to maintain that, you invariably find that the current economic legs on which we are standing, which is mining and tourism and so on and so forth, how far they will carry us. Okay? So there is a completely fresh thinking with regard to where we should be moving. Right? And let us look at this dream of Suvidya Goa on one hand, okay, and the that is Suvidya and Enlightened Goa and Samruddha Goa. And that is where issues like, you know, previously we used to have industrial economy, then we moved on to what is called as knowledge economy, where more than 50% of world GDP now comes from knowledge, production, distribution, and dissemination of knowledge. Okay? And now we are talking in terms of creative economy. And I must say, give credit to my friend Lydia, that yesterday when we were traveling together from Delhi to Goa, she gave me a beautiful chart that UNCTAD has produced on this creative economy. What does this creative economy show? You can see that. I don't know how many of you will be able to read it. But it talks in terms of creating wealth out of visual arts, publishing and print media, design, then new media, audio visuals, performing arts, traditional cultural expressions, and so on and so forth. That means you use the functional creations, the media, the arts and heritage to create wealth. And in fact, in the paper, we have actually shown, without showing this diagram, because I was not aware of this, this is a great study, on how other countries have moved and how 20%, 30%, 40% of their economy is depending upon the creative economy. Now tell me something, is there a land in India where creative economy can be fostered and flourished better than Goa? No. It can be here, provided we do the other things, not otherwise, by the way. Okay? So there is a completely new vision with regard to, because don't forget, we are not looking at 5 years down the line. We are looking at 2035. All right? As we move along, we have to build it. I mean, I was telling Lydia yesterday, you look at animation. Animation requires creativity, right? You know what is the animation industry? Close to $1 trillion. You have 10% share of it, and you can see the multiples of Goa GDP. But it will require a strategy. Kind of human resource we require, what are the timelines, what are the business models, how we can be competitive, etc., etc. So we have to get back to the drawing board and start working on it sort of right away. And all these problems, we keep on complaining, we train engineering graduates, they vanish, and all that will vanish. Because the moment Goa becomes a land of opportunity, who would want to leave this wonderful land, basically? It's a question of giving that opportunity. Can we have the lights on, please? All right? So you will see that in this Samruddha Goa, we have given number of suggestions, and of course we have not forgotten the fundamentals, because in those fundamentals we are saying that we have bottlenecks, we have deficit in governance, we have physical infrastructure issues, we have social infrastructure issues, and what needs to be done in order to do that. The sixth one, the most important one, very important one, is Sushashit Goa, well-governed Goa. Governance is the key. And so like you said, transparent, accountable, participative, fair and equitable, responsive, these are the fundamentals on which this governance has to be based. And we have gone deep dive into the detail. You will find that we have given specific recommendations on improving public delivery mechanism, the Panchayat Raj institutions, how technology-led citizen-centric governance can be done. In fact, I had written this particular paper in the new Journal on Governance about 2 years ago. Came very handy, by the way, while doing the report. Then not just e-governance, we have to be ahead of the curve, M-governance. I don't believe in these best practices, by the way. Best practice means you are copying somebody. Next practices. What are the next practices sort of we should be doing in this? Then land and good governance, the size of the state government, we are very critical of some of the things that we need to do. And finally, of course, the issue of Swanandi Goa, Happy Goa, Samruddha Goa, because happiness is not just a measure of growth. It is a measure of people's well-being. Goa is celebrated as a great natural beauty. It is known for its serenity. It is a land of happy people, but happiness goes beyond satisfaction. And we have analyzed that. The idea is not original, I must say. It was the king of Bhutan who actually said, like gross national product, we must have gross happiness product, so as to say, as a different measure. And now there have been lots of studies all over the world that have been done, because that's what I said, finally what matters? You may be super rich, so what? All right? So people are basically realizing that. And there are, sir, 8 measures now, which contribute to happiness, like physical, then mental and spiritual health, time balance, social harmony, cultural vitality, education, good governance, ecological vitality, and so on, basically. And there are indices. So, and what we are seeing is that Goa becomes a kind of a model state, by the way, based on these indicators. So these are actually the 7 arrows. I find I'm precisely at 11 o'clock, and I was supposed to finish at 11, so I'll finish precisely at 11. What I want to do is the following. We began this report, by the way, with a paragraph which I will read out to you. And the paragraph says, Goa is a modern and forward-looking state, ranked at the top among the states and the union territories on 12 key indications relating to the quality of life in the report of National Commission on Population. Goa was selected as the state of the states in a survey conducted by the leading news magazine India Today, and ranked to be the best amongst all the states in India in the categories of education, health, infrastructure, and investment. In terms of social indicators such as literacy and infant mortality rate, Goa is among the top 3 states in the country. The 11th Finance Commission ranked Goa as the best placed state in the country in terms of infrastructure facilities. When one reads this, one would say, oh, what more do we need to do? And that is where our challenge is. That is where our challenge is. How do we move from good to great? How do we set higher benchmarks for ourselves? Because I would not go by these rankings within India, which is ranked as 126th in the national human development indices that are done. What is the point in being best in India? I don't see any merit in that. I don't believe in those comparisons. All right? Because this state, it is entirely possible for it to lift itself and not just best in India, the best in the world, the happiest state in the world. That is the vision. Thank you very much.